Bookie's New and Used Books is a supporter of WXAV 88.3 FM and WXAV.com. Located at 10324 Southwestern Avenue in Chicago, Bookie's offers a selection of new and used books with orders available for books not currently in stock. For more information, visit their website at bookiesbookstores.com.
This is a WXAV 773 Sounds podcast, introducing you to the best local bands in the Chicagoland area.
Hey, this is Peter Creighton with 773 Sounds here on WXAV 88.3 FM Chicago. And we are really lucky because right now we have on the line with us Phil Yates from the great local band Phil Yates and the Affiliates. Phil, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Peter. It's great to be here.
We're so happy that you're able to spend some of your time with us. So I want to take you all the way back to the beginning. How did you discover music? How did you realize that you were musical and that you wanted to play and compose?
That's a great question. I think it was in grade school. My school had an opportunity when she hit fourth grade to be in the school band. So this was in Springfield, Illinois, and I ended up picking up trumpet.
Okay.
I think my parents were spinning some old Chicago records and stuff like that, and so the horns are very prominent in those songs. So I gravitated toward that. So I played trumpet from like fourth through eighth grade, and the local schools would all get together and march every year in the St. Patrick's Day parade. So you can imagine a bunch of like 10 and 12-year-olds marching through the streets with the valves freezing in the sleet.
Yeah.
Fun times. But I felt like I was really good at trumpet, and my high school didn't have band. So I ended up switching to guitar and bass when I was like 14, 15 years old. And I think in terms of trying to come up with composing my own songs, writing my own songs, I think there was a small part of me that thought I wasn't a very good guitarist or good bassist in terms of learning other people's songs. You know, that especially when I was first starting out, I'm like, well, I can't play this song, but maybe I could try my own thing in my own direction.
And I love the fact that it was school that got you and that pulled you in. So it's such an important thing that the arts remain in our public school, because it literally gave you, a musical career or a musical passion.
I absolutely agree with that. And, like neither one of my parents are musically inclined at all. I think all these years later, they're still kind of confused and amused and maybe bemused too, if we want to keep up with the rhyming scheme. But I keep on keeping on with it. Yep.
That's awesome. So how did the Affiliates start? How did you go about creating your band?
That's a great question. So when I was so I did the solo singer-songwriter thing for quite a few years. So I didn't play, I think, my first open mic / performance until I was like 22, 23. And that was when I was going to grad school in Burlington, Vermont. And I had some friends sort of push me to do it. And so it'd be more traditional folky type of coffee houses and some open mics that way. And it wasn't until I'd say a good 10 years of doing that I finally thought, oh, I'm tired of being sort of the acoustic opener at a punk show or something like that. I want to play more loudly than what I do on the acoustic. So I had the opportunity to record a song for a movie. The movie was called Ninjas versus Zombies. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, there's this great indie director out of Richmond, Virginia, Justin Timpany, put it together. It's part one of a trilogy. So spoilers, ninjas win the first movie. I had some friends back me up on that to do like a full band performance, and I thought this is the direction I need to go. Um, I was in LA at the time and moved back to Vermont and put together a backing band. And my bandmates knew that I was such a huge fan of Elvis Costello and the Attractions and the Imposters. So they thought, since I'm writing all those songs, it should be Phil Yates and the something. And my first guitarist, Kevin Stevens, said, "Oh, the Affiliates." It just flowed nicely with the name, and so that's the origin of the name. And it took it took our local music editor of the Free Weekly seeing us out and about for like 3 years until he ran into me at the bar and said, "Oh, I finally get the name." I'm like, "Okay." So some people get it right away, and others it takes time. But when I moved back to Chicago, I wanted I wanted to take the name with me, and
Mhm.
my former bandmates were fine with that. So I didn't have to like pull the. I've heard Nick Cave say something like, "Whoever plays with him are the bad seeds." I didn't want to like pull that Nick Cave card on them,
Yeah.
but so they were great about that, and yeah. So took me about, I'd say, 10 months or so to put together the Chicago version of the Affiliates. But I do think, they interpret some of the older songs in a slightly different way than what the Vermont crew did. But I think we attack the songs in a different manner and in
Yeah.
a way that I really like. We tend to, I think, hit those songs harder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I gotta say, just like the sound of the band, you're optimistic, you're indie poppy. Like when I first heard you, you definitely hear that Elvis Costello sound, but there's a little bit of REM, there's a little bit of that like really 90s pop sensibility with it. How do you, when you're going to write like your songs, then do you kind of take inspiration from like the music that you already enjoy, or do you kind of let it organically, just come out with the band and how you're like ebbing and flowing?
I think it's a cop out for me to say a little bit of both. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned REM because I always list sort of my holy trinity, like what are my top three acts, and it's always the Beatles, Elvis Costello, and REM. So that is definitely in my songwriting DNA. And going to high school and college in the 90s, the 90s music is definitely in my wheelhouse. So things like the Lemonheads, the
Yeah.
Replacements, Guided by Voices, Wilco, Elliott Smith, that's all in there,
Hmm.
in that. And so even if I'm not trying to pay homage to those acts when writing, I think it's just seeped in me that like I take the acoustic guitar, and that's what I normally do when I write is I write everything on the acoustic guitar. I'll record it on like a voice memo and send it to the guys. And then hopefully by the time the next practice comes along, everyone's heard it, and then we can like start playing. And then it sort of goes through that affiliates filter a bit and ends up how it is. But
Yeah.
I think by nature of me writing on everything on the acoustic, they all initially have sort of that same strumming, same type of feel. And yeah, sort of REM Lemon's Heady
Yeah.
in that regards. Yeah.
I got to ask because you mentioned the Beatles, and I'm a diehard Beatles fan too. What's your album?
Magical Mystery Tour is the
Ooh,
one.
good one.
Yeah. So I will probably go so far and say that's my favorite record by anybody of all time. I know purists would say, well, the UK version was an EP originally, and the American version is sort of a Frankenstein, if you will. But um, my first access was my father's original copy. of the American version. So that's the one I grew up with. It's a full record. That's my favorite record. Yeah.
That's a great one. When I got into them, that was the second CD,
Okay.
and my sister bought that for me because the first one I got was Pepper, and I was furious because it didn't have Penny Lane or Strawberry Fields on
Right.
it.
Right.
So she went out to Best Buy and she found it, and that thing was on repeat months. It's a great record, and it's weird too because you got like I'm the Walrus is on it, Baby You're a Rich Man, Blue Jay Way, Fool on the Hill.
Yeah.
That's a really, and it's weird saying the Beatles have an underrated record. That's an underrated Beatles album.
I think so. And also, as a kid, I loved the book. So
Yeah.
I would just flip through the pages of that too. And then I saw the movie maybe at too young of an age, where, um, or maybe not. I think I was watching some Monty Python pretty early on, thanks to
Mhm.
our like local PBS station. And so, the film I think matched my budding interest in the
Yeah.
absurdities in Python. But yeah, also like I think another. It's funny though, like when I go listen to the Beatles now, even though that's my favorite record, the one I tend to pull out the most to listen to at home is Beatles for Sale, and I think
Mhm.
that is definitely when we're talking about under the radar Beatles records. That's one for me.
Well, speaking of albums, you put out a great record back in 2022 called A Thin Thread.
Right.
Do you got any new albums in the works that are coming
We
out?
so the new record I'm finished writing. So we have I've written I like having 10 songs for a
Yeah.
record. It's a nice round number. Easy to split on vinyl, five on each side. So I have the 10 songs written. We've gone through some fits and starts trying to record. In summer of 2023, after doing a tour, our guitarist on that record left to focus on his solo career and his family stuff. So we were sort of spinning our wheels whether or not to continue as sort of like a power trio or find a fourth. And so some initial recording came in fits and starts. December, we finally found a full-time lead guitarist, and he's
Nice.
learning the new songs and the old songs. So um, I believe this month we're getting ready to record in earnest to knock them out. So I think we've done the backing tracks for three of the songs so far, maybe four of the songs if I'm being optimistic. But I'm hoping, by the end of fall, early winter, we have tracking finished, and then it can get into the mixing mastering phase. So ideally, I was hoping 2025, but it
Yeah.
looks like depending which label we, release it on, probably early 2026 will be the completed record. But, that's subject to change once we get into the studio. My bassist built this wonderful pandemic studio in his basement,
Oh,
and
awesome.
that's where we recorded A Thin Thread. And I think it's kind of a blessing and a curse because what's great about it is we're not on the clock. I always think of going to studios like being in a taxi cab. As you're
Yeah.
in, you could kind of see the money that
Yep.
you're blowing
Yeah.
through there. And so we don't have that here, which is great. But then also, I think there's the danger of not knowing when to let a song go. Say, like, okay, you could keep on tinkering and tinkering and tinkering and never say, okay, time to cut bait. It's
Yeah.
finished. So I'm hoping we don't run into that with this new record during the recording process. But from my end of things, it's written, it's now, songs are ready to go through that affiliates filter to see what the final product is.
That's super exciting. I'm here with Phil Yates from Phil Yates and the Affiliates. Now, if people want to go and check you guys out, you're on Instagram and you're on Facebook and Bandcamp, right?
Correct.
How
Correct.
can just search Phil Yates and the Affiliates?
Yeah, so the link on Bandcamp is philyates.bandcamp.com, and that has all the affiliates records. So our last two records were with Detroit's Future Man Records, this tiny label that focuses on power pop bands. It's one person who runs it, Keith Klingerschmidt. He's a great musician in his own right. Performs in a band called The Legal Matters. Fantastic stuff. And then No Need to Beg is on there too. That was a record we released on an Italian label called Almost Halloween Time Records. Again, one person runs that one, Luigi Falagario out of Bari, Italy. And he's interesting because he hand draws each record jacket or cassette.
Oh,
So
wow.
so you order it and you get a hand-drawn record jacket or cassette jacket, and each one's different. So, but if you just want the digital download, you could go my link on Bandcamp. So yeah, we have everything there, and on Instagram, I think there's affiliates in the affiliates Instagram page, but I didn't create that one, so I don't have access to it. So if anyone like really wants to follow the band and some of my solo stuff outside the band, it's at Philip A. Yates on Instagram, just a single L there in Philip. But so yeah, I've done some things recently outside the affiliates. So that Italian label put out a tribute to B1000, the Guided by Voices record.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so I was able to contribute a cover of Awful Bliss, the Tobin Sprout song off
Oh,
that.
nice.
Yeah, and so that came out about a month or two ago, and I basically recorded it on ukulele, electric guitar, and percussion on a suitcase. So I did
Oh,
that in my basement bathroom. So tried to keep that lo-fi aesthetic as much as possible. So
I love that.
yeah, yeah. So that was a fun song to do.
Sounds like it. So we're a college radio station. From your perspective, what do you see the role college radio has, not only in the music scene, but more specifically in the local music scene?
I think for a lot of local artists, college radio is that lifeline. I think it's always a dream for bands to hear their songs on the radio, and it's always a thrill to hear it. And but I think traditionally college radio stations and various low-powered FM and AM stations, but specifically college radio, um, doesn't follow any rules. It's a good college radio station just plays whatever they want at all hours of the day. And so that gives stations much more freedom to test the waters and get a little weird, get a little creative by, playing stuff that no one else will. And I think tapping into the local music scene, regardless of it's Chicago or other college radio stations I've been fortunate to do things with, like Columbia, South Carolina, and Burlington, Vermont. That's that free form is. It sounds generic to say freeing, but yeah, that's where bands get that foothold, and then could maybe expose themselves to more listeners that way. I mean, I've already mentioned, going to high school and college all throughout the 90s. A lot of the bands that I listened to got their exposure from college radio,
Yeah,
the REMs of the world,
yeah.
any band in the Our Band Can Be Your Life book have a lot of can thank college radio for helping them bubble up to the masses.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because my students will always kind of ask me because, I'm a child of the 90s too. And they always ask me, they're like, what was it like? What was it like? And I always tell them, like, it was okay to be weird. Like, you could reach mainstream masses. And I always use the example of Primus. Primus would never make it if they were breaking out as a band today. It'd be too hard for them.
Right.
But you have Primus when they come out late 80s, early 90s. You have college radio here in Chicago, JBTV, a lot of other public access music programming, and they can bubble to the top. And all of a sudden, they're in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Then they're on MTV, and all this stuff happens. And for me, that's the thing that I always love so much about college radio is there's no fear of embracing the unknown or the weird.
Exactly. Like I grew up downstate in Springfield, and we had zero college radio there. So if you were trying in high school to discover new bands, you'd have sort of 120 Minutes and Headbangers Ball and stuff like that on MTV. But occasionally late at night, if you did your antennas on your radio in your room just right, you could pick up the college station at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
Oh,
And
okay.
and so occasionally late at night through the static, you can hear some nice weird stuff that you wouldn't hear on, your mainstream radio in Springfield. And that was great. Sort of magical moments through the static, like, oh, what is that song? And then, trying to track it down the next day.
Yeah, that's the fun of it.
Yep.
I'm with Phil Yates from Phil Yates and the Affiliates. I got one final question for you, Phil, and it's kind of
Sure.
another broad, general one. For you, what makes a perfect pop song?
Oh, that's great. Um, I think with us, so dabbling in sort of the power pop universe, I think it has to have a hook, and not necessarily a lyrical hook. I think it has to have that musical hook. And it could be guitar driven, it could be synth driven, it could be percussion driven, but it's got to have that certain something that just grabs you and that worms its way into your ear so that you want to hear it again. And then on top of it, then the lyrics and the vocal melody can do whatever it wants, which is weird for me because like when I write, I do lyrics first and then force music on top of it. So it pains me to say that it's not the lyric that grabs you first. Yeah, I think it's gotta have that thing that just grabs you. Now, I don't know what would be a perfect song like that to just grab you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've gushed about the Beatles already, and so I mean that could be the blueprint. But I don't know. I mean, it could be things like I don't know if it's cliche now to say it, but September Girls, Big Star. There, that's the epitome of here. Here's a well-crafted hooky song. Those chimey guitars at the very beginning. You're like, ooh, what's coming next? And then it snaps into place, doesn't overstay its welcome, and you're like, okay, great. And I think that something like that's perfect.
I agree. It's always that melody. For me, it hooks me just right away and everything.
Yeah.
So, Phil, thank you so much for spending some time with us again. If you want to check out Phil, they're on Bandcamp. Just search Phil Yates and the Affiliates. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Peter. And everyone, keep listening to this radio station.
Thank you for listening to this WXAV 773 Sounds podcast. For more information on 773 Sounds, please visit our website, wxav.com.